So this is session one, and session one is challenging relationships. And we're really going to navigate the intricate web of human interactions, whether it's personal relationships, professional settings, or with our broader societal structures. We often encounter challenges that test the strength and resilience of our bonds. So this session aims to delve into the complexities and intricacies of such relationships, offering insights into their dynamics and how to manage, enhance, and if necessary, restructure them. And with Raisa, mashallah, she is the Muslim divorce coach and founder of Pathway to Empowered Choices. Sounds pretty cool when you talk about divorce and empowered choices, because quite often it feels like a very disempowering process, divorce. And that doesn't necessarily mean that she's getting you divorced, by the way. Hopefully she will share something with you that might intrigue you. So what she really does. But she helps busy, ambitious Muslim wives who strive for excellence and feel like divorce is their only option, make powerful decisions from a state of clarity, confidence, and conviction rooted in taqwa and tawakkul. So rooted in consciousness of Allah and trusting in Allah. And she empowers them to find what is right for them, regardless of which path they are guided to. So her overarching vision is to contribute to having spiritually and emotionally healthy families in our ummah. And her talk today is divorce thinking when it looks like the only option is divorce. She's going to challenge the belief that it's over when your spouse isn't willing to change and open the way to discovering what might be possible despite the testing circumstances you're facing in your marriage. So, Raisa, it's over to you. You should have the capabilities of slide sharing if that's what you wish to do. I'm going to turn my camera off and leave you with it.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is Raisa Ghiwala, the Muslimah divorce coach and Back to the Fitra educator and mentor. And my topic today, as you heard, is divorce thinking when it looks like the only option is divorce. So let's go. Have you ever felt like this is the last straw in your marriage? Have you ever had the thoughts of, that's it, I'm packing my bags and would rather be a single mother than be in this turmoil? I can't take this anymore. What is the point of being in this marriage? We go back and forth with these exhausting highs and lows of hope and then disappointment, and nothing ever changes. This is known as divorce thinking. I have found that when divorce thinking creeps up, you are emotionally heightened with layers of frustration, resentment, and anger without any resolution to your grievances. Divorce thinking automatically creeps in as an exit strategy to escape the state and give you relief. So it looks like the ultimate solution to the emotional turmoil and your challenging circumstances is divorce. It appears to promise an end to your unmet needs, to the absence of a loving emotional connection, intimacy, and the void of happiness, fulfillment, and peace that you are so craving. Now, divorce may or may not be the path for you. I can't tell you what your path is. What I can tell you is that it's crucial to recognize that assessing the path forward for you becomes difficult and almost impossible to decipher when you're in the midst of such heightened emotions. It actually turns it into a huge mental fog. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, chapter 45, verse 23, so have you seen him who has taken his desires as his God? Allah has let him go astray despite having knowledge, and has sealed his ear and his heart and put a cover on his eye. Now who will guide him after Allah? Still, do you not take lesson? So let's unpack this a little bit here, this verse. And desires are emotions, are feelings. And this is the case because as human beings, we are thinking, feeling beings that experience our life through our thoughts and our feelings. So I want you to understand that everything we think and feel is not true. And I'm going to say that again, because if you really let this sink in, you'll see how deep this goes. Everything we think and feel is not true. So what that means, when we follow our personal thinking, believing that it's true, our personal thinking or our feelings, which are our desires, we believe what we think and feel is truth. When truth only actually lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's it, okay? And Allah is the one who uncovers the truth for us and uncovers or covers up the truth for us and allows us to see the truth as it is. That is why we need to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all moments, moment to moment, with our heart, with our mind and our body. Because we don't want to be the one whose ears and hearts are sealed and whose vision is veiled. Because if that's the case, and we act on what we think is true and what we believe is true because we're going based on our feelings, we end up creating more of a mess in our life, causing more anxiety and stress and overwhelm, because we're just wanting to escape. We become attached to our feelings and thinking, believing that it's the truth, which is what causes all of the anxiety and the overwhelm. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us in chapter 13, verse 11, indeed, Allah will not change a condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. And yes, we've all heard this. We all know this, right? Everybody knows it. However, do we know these verses from an intellectual level? Like, yeah, I know it. Or do we know this from a heart spiritual level, that we have embodied what this message is trying to tell us, right? And in order to do so, I'm going to unpack, and I'm going to talk to you about what does that require, okay? That requires us to look within rather than externally for the solution to our problems, starting with our feelings, which is an inside job, and not dependent on what is happening outside of us, such as what is happening with our spouse or our kids or our circumstances. And what I really want to bring home today is that this is the formula we need to go through to address all the issues of not having a fulfilling, highly connected, purposeful marriage. This is it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, He's giving us the blueprint, but are we understanding? Are we hearing it? And we're just hearing it from our mind, but we're not embodying it. So we're not able to implement this. Meaning, if you want your marriage, your spouse, or your life to change from what it is now to your desired state of peace, fulfillment, loving connection, to have your needs met, to be valued, heard, and understood, this is the only formula that will get you results. The question that needs to be asked is, what needs to shift within me so that I can realize what needs to change within me and make the changes in order to actualize what I want to experience in my life and in my relationships. This is how deep this verse goes. If we can see from the spiritual lens, from the heart lens. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. Don't look out, look in. And the great thing is that we're not left on our own to figure this out and think about, what do I need to do? What do I need to do here? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us through what we call it, back to the fitra, love letters that come via our feelings. Our feelings are love letters, or a signal to pause, to look within and to see, what is Allah showing me? Then proceed with wisdom. And my dear brother and my dear sister, this is for you who has tried everything to make the marriage work. And no matter what you've tried, it is just causing you emotional turmoil and pain while nothing changes. Because until you've decided from a state of clarity rather than exasperation, you are following your desires rather than what is right and pleasing to Allah. Because you've only approached this decision from what you know, with the state of heart and mind that you are currently in, and a different perspective that you are not aware of yet, which doesn't come from me or another person. It will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we follow this formula. And I know, I get it. It sucks to be in this type of emotional turmoil. And it makes sense that we just want to get out of it. We want to get out of the discomfort. But it is in the discomfort that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is inviting you back to Him and sending you a message or the love letter, right? And so I want to talk about a client that I had, Sister Noor, who sought out my assistance due to ongoing challenges within her 20+ year marriage. Her husband's recurring substance abuse issue, which had plagued their relationship during the initial decade, had resurfaced, becoming the breaking point for her. Noura had expressed feelings of resentment and anger from inadequate support and her needs not being prioritized. She had a sense of being taken for granted, and her husband's limited contributions to the household. The emotional distance between them had eroded her perception of having a partner or friend in the relationship. She was grappling with the fear of losing her sense of self if she were to continue in this marriage as is. She was seeking freedom from the emotional burden, but was unsure whether divorce was the right path for her or not. And I want to add that usually, when people want to, no longer want to have that emotional burden, and they're concerned about losing themselves, staying in the marriage as is, they look to start changing everything and everyone besides themselves. That's the last place that we are trained to look. We are trained to look outside of ourselves. Okay, get my husband to do like this. Maybe I should do this and I should do that, but not looking from deep within, but just looking, what can I change to get him to change? We're trying to change other people rather than change ourselves from within. So Noor wanted to, number one, let go of anger, resentment, hurt, and fear. She wanted to make a decision about which direction to take next in her marriage that she could feel at peace with. She wanted to, number three, maintain a harmonious, God-centered home for her children. Number four, she wanted to stop wishing to be somewhere other than where she actually was in her marriage. And today, I want to show you, through the journey of Sister Noor, how it's possible to effortlessly be in the state to embody these verses or this guidance, this formula that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in the Quran, so you can realize what needs to shift within you in order to actualize what you want to experience in your marriage through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise, with clarity, confidence, and conviction in either case, whether that means for you staying in the marriage with a new perspective or deciding to divorce with peace. And this is exactly what we did together. By her looking within toward her feelings and her emotions in the form of a love letter from Allah, she was able to decipher the message Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was delivering to her for her healing, her growth, and course correction via insight. So she was able to do this between her and Allah, having my support, facilitating her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and her relationship with herself. What she realized was that she had been, number one, tying her self-worth to her husband's actions. And she learned to see him as a fellow struggling soul. Number two, she was able to recognize her human need for validation and approval that she was seeking externally in the form of codependency via unhealthy attachment as the root cause of her pain. Number three, she understood that her peace came from her connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and her true self in the present moment. Number four, gratitude and a fresh new perspective towards her marriage, life, and husband emerged as the unkind judgments and beliefs about him effortlessly fell away. She released anger, resentment, and blame. Consequently, her communication with her husband became more neutral and kind, fostering understanding, whereas before she felt justified to withhold kindness with him because of her feelings of resentment. So she had a lot of shifts, and for her, she came thinking, okay, I need to divorce. How am I going to do that? What's the best way forward? And in this decision-making process, it was essential to gain the clarity and perspective that allowed her the space to evaluate her situation from a calmer standpoint, from hearing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling her, because she was able to separate her emotions, which cloud judgment, and make it challenging to make a well-informed choice about your future. And I want to share with you that everything became centered around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for her. It translated into a profound change in her marriage and had a positive impact on other aspects of her life. And I want to share with you her words rather than share more about her journey from my voice. I want to share with you her words that she shared with me. She said, I have slowed down so much, both in my thinking and my reactive behaviors. I've learned how to communicate more compassionately, and I feel more connected to myself. I've also noticed anxiety levels decrease. Raisa helped me unpack what happens when I feel triggered by a behavior or a comment from my husband. I was able to see very clearly that my reaction has to do with the story I'm telling myself in my head that is not true, and my separate reality that I am experiencing. I've learned how to pause, become aware of my thinking, and reconnect with myself and Allah to make space for wisdom. I've also learned that I've been looking for my source of safety and security from outside rather than from Allah. Another session that was powerful for me was learning how to set clear boundaries and limits. I feel like I'm going on a journey of guided self-discovery. She's helping me to tap into my wisdom to know what is the right thing to do that is pleasing to Allah. And I might add here, she also said, it's become easier to do what is pleasing to Allah rather than what she's feeling. The learning I've experienced so far has definitely helped me with my marriage and other areas of my life, such as work and my relationship with my kids, parents, and family. You helped me identify my true problem because it wasn't what I originally thought it to be. You've given me tools that I know I will draw from continually in my life. I feel like you've helped me find the path forward. And subhanAllah, like so many people think like, okay, that the marriage is over and there's no hope. And this is the only solution, not understanding or realizing what are the sources of pain and emotional turmoil, meaning the disconnection from yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when that gets course corrected and you treat the root issues, different perspectives come that you don't even know what they're going to be. And we didn't go into this. We went into this as we don't know what the answer is. And she got the answer based on listening to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guiding her. And This is the journey of understanding where her feelings are coming from, where they are not and where they're not. And she learned to always look within, which helped to shift her perspective, become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, feel secure and supported, whether people were supporting, including her husband, whether he was supporting her or not. She looked to Allah for support, and she learned to not look for her peace outside of herself. With this new internal state, she returned back to her fitra, state of peace that she was created on and born with. And a lot of things fell away, a lot of detachment fell away for her. So this transformation she's undergone through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise has allowed her to see her life with greater clarity and navigate it with greater ease through taqwa, which is consciousness of Allah because she's conscious of herself, and tawakkul, because she has that consciousness, she's able to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything, and clarity and confidence and conviction. Now, it doesn't mean that her life is perfect and she's in, wedded bliss, because we're living in dunya, not in Jannah. It means that she is able to navigate all the challenges that come up in life, in relationships, in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'd really love to continue this conversation and go deeper to navigate this complex terrain and explore your options with a clear mind and connected heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what I'm sharing with you today in my free gift. So I'd love to see you in that masterclass and my workshop as well, which we will go into after the masterclass. And last but not least, I really felt compelled to share something that came to me as I was putting this presentation together, which is an insight that I had back in 2021, which was, and I kept saying this over and over and over again, it kept coming to me. That was the year of the pandemic and COVID and all that, right? Well, chaos was happening everywhere. I was like, Raisa, you think you know, but what actually is it that you know? What is it that you know? Stop thinking from your limited mind and connect your heart back to Allah. Full stop. And that's all I needed to realize, to know. This is the truth that I needed to know to take me back to my wisdom and to navigate the challenges that we all face during that time in our life. Jazakallah khair for attending and listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. Can you hear me clearly? I've just switched devices around a little bit, so just checking.
Perfect. Perfect. I can hear you.
Well, that's good. That probably means everyone else can too. So if anyone has any questions here in Zoom, you're welcome to come on the mic and ask, or type them in the chat. It would also be great for those that are on Facebook and those that are in Zoom, if you could type a takeaway from the session. Was there anything that you took from that was enlightening, took a different perspective to the way you thought about things before? We'd love to hear what you took from the session, inshallah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm available to answer questions, something you didn't understand, something that stood out for you, because this is not the norm of what you hear out there of how to address deciding to get divorced or not. Even divorce thinking, nobody talks about that.
So I've actually got a private question that's come up, and it's more like a coping post-divorce type question, but I do think that it fits in and would be good to address it. So this sister lives alone and is unable to work because of current health conditions. So she has a broken family who don't care much for relationships, including her son. And so she feels her jihad is, how does she activate her senses, keep herself motivated to exceed beyond expectations? She says she manages ibadah as best she can with continual learning through, though lacking in areas of progress in education, which input down to lack of stimulation of other people. So basically, perhaps to sum it up rather than read it word for word, it sounds to me like she's feeling very disconnected from people, alone from people, and trying to have that connection with Allah being sufficient and enough for her. And reading between the lines, I wonder whether she's feeling like because she's not activated and motivated, that she's failing in that. And I think that this brings up a really important point, that when we talk about detached from the dunya and attached to Allah, that doesn't mean that we don't need human interaction and that we should be able to be capable to live as an island on our own, and that that is sufficient for us. I do think that human connection is very important. And so if someone is struggling being alone, that is understandable. And so the first thing I would say is, it sounds like you're doing a great job under the circumstances, and to, I guess, free yourself from any judgment around, well, why aren't I feeling better? The thing that we teach here, and that Raisa started to unpack in the first session, is that we're always feeling about things the way we're thinking about it. And so if we're thinking about it, that I should be okay even without anyone, then our focus is on that, and we start feeling badly because we're not feeling okay. The detachment is to detach from that thinking, the placing expectations on how we should feel, and actually just coming back to, okay, well, I'm feeling a bit lonely right now, that's okay. Or I'm feeling a bit down right now, that's okay. Oh, I'm feeling good today, that's great. And just allow ourselves to have that human experience. And all I can say is stick around for the conference, because maybe what I've just shared with you will make a lot more sense as we get deeper into it and more people share the different perspectives. So you're actually exactly in the right place to, inshallah, get insight into that question, into the answer to that question. So I'm glad you're here. So Hadiza has her hand up. Hadiza, did you want to ask Raisa a question?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for a really, really lovely session. Thank you so much. My question is around boundary setting. With the example that you gave, the sister was saying that this person that she is married to has an addiction problem, and I completely hear what you're saying, that we should look within and work on our connection to Allah. But sometimes, you know, when you are caught up in the whole scenario and you're trying to separate the person, the behavior from the person from the behavior, and have that connection to Allah, it may have to involve sort of setting the boundaries. And I just wondered if you could please speak to that.
Well, yeah, great question. This is real stuff, because you're not only you have to take care of yourself, you have real intense things going on in your family and in your home. So how do you address that? It's when we are connected to ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the present moment, we will be guided on how to set the limit or the boundary that that needs to be set, what needs to be said, what needs to be done in an effortless way. Like there's no anxiety around it, and you'll be able to communicate it in a way that it gets heard. And it's not just, and there's a process to setting limits. It's not like, okay, we say it one time. We have to continue holding the limit until the message is heard. And sometimes it can take time. And throughout that process, you'll get pushback, and that can cause more emotions to come up within you. So the constant thing is really going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have that resilience, that groundedness, that strength, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going on in your marriage. He's the one who knows who he partnered you with and what you're dealing with. What he's looking for is to see how you're going to respond. And we can only respond in a way that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, that means saying no and setting limits and addressing things, difficult things that need to be addressed. Is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he doesn't ask us to take whatever we're getting and just allow ourselves to be walked all over, or, you know, have things that are not okay, allow things that are not okay. But the way forward to do that, it's not about anybody telling you what to do or giving you a process of how to do it. It's about being in your wisdom. And that's the process that we facilitate here at Back to the Fitrah, is we help you and show you how to connect back to your wisdom, connect back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everything the sister that I talked about, it came from her own wisdom. And when the times where she wasn't sure or she wasn't in her wisdom, we teach you what to do then. That's when we pause and we do nothing, or as we've been taught in from our mentors, we zip our lips, put our hands in our pockets, and we wait while we surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that circumstance, waiting for him to send us, okay, what do I do now? That clarity, like, okay, I need to say this is the right thing to do. And you know, even though it's difficult, we don't fall into, oh, what is he going to say? How is he going to respond? Because we leave all that outcome and worry. The worry falls away, and we leave the outcome of how he's going to respond to Allah, because we know that we're listening to our wisdom and his guidance for us, and we move forward with that in mind. I hope that I answered their question. If you have any follow-up, let me know.
So I might share
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Hadiza. Sorry, I talked over the top of you. I might share just some of the takeaways that are here in Zoom. Maharaj says, seeking safety and security from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from external sources. Awesome elaboration of being connected to Allah to gain clarity in your path. And now says, when we disconnect from expectations regarding other humans and truly connect with Allah, we will gain clarity on how to move forward, and also not be attached to our thoughts and feelings. Alhamdulillah. We have a question here. How do we address generational trauma according to the Sunnah? We have talks that are going to cover that sort of thing coming up, so we might save that to be addressed in the talks that we'll have a look at that, inshallah. But I think Brother Shoaib wanted to say something. Do you still want to say something, brother?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sister Raisa, just fantastic talk. Lovely.
Sorry about that. That was one of my alarms going off. Please go ahead.
Could be worse. Could be take on me from AHA. Anyway.
Yeah. You must be from the same generation as me.
I'm born in 70s, but I'm 80s. Man, you asked me anything about 80s. Okay, for me, Jannah is 80s. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's right.
80s. I'm an 80s person like there's no tomorrow. Okay.
Awesome.
What I was going to say was, before I forget, sister, can you cover one thing? We covered everything, alhamdulillah, but there's one thing that I missed out, and this is something very important for brothers and sisters. It's very common in some cultures, which I won't mention. The saying goes something like this, and I used to be one of them, to be honest. So as much as I like to say, oh, I'm not that, I used to believe in that myself, that you're not close to Allah, and I'm paraphrasing, because when you divorce, is the most hatred thing that Allah has allowed. Now, of course, a few years ago, ironically, I'm divorced twice, so whatever. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that maybe a good idea to, and this is something from your expert, to cover that part too, because some of the brothers and some of the sisters, because of whatever they have, this topic comes up and says, brother, sister, you shouldn't get divorced because Allah is, He doesn't like divorce. And the other thing is also to look up, to look up is khula, because divorce and khula is two different things. Because some people do actually believe there's no khula in Islam. What do you mean khula? Only men can divorce.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Something to address for future talk.
Great, great. Yeah, I do address a lot of these in my work.
Okay.
This was particularly specific on, you know, when it looks like divorce is the only option. And one of the things you said was, some people say you shouldn't. And this is, I want to address that statement. Some people say you shouldn't divorce. We don't go according to what people say. We go according to what Allah says. This is why we go back to the Quran, we go back to the Sunnah. We look for the truth there, not with what people say. And this is why it's so important. The message here is come back to yourself and Allah, Allah and yourself. That's the way forward. So people will say all sorts of things, including parents and family and loved ones who care, who mean well. But just because they say it doesn't mean that it's true. Just because we think it doesn't mean it's true. We have to go back to the Quran, the Sunnah, and say, how do I know this is true? Who's telling me this is true? And I just...
Sorry, sister, I agree with you 100%. There's no doubt about that. But just that emphasis, because there are what we call spiritual abuse in counseling, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we'll address a lot of that going into the topics going forward, but your point is heard and taken. And again, I address that in my work, you know, on a day-to-day basis. And there's just a narrow topic that we had today in terms of divorce thinking and believing it like that's the solution.
Fair enough.
So yeah, but Jazakallah khair for bringing that point up, which is also very relevant and does affect us a lot.
What people say is that you're not close to Allah if you get divorced and khula. Well, that's not true. So there you go.
Yeah.
Keep my mouth shut now. Sorry, I talk too much.
No. I really appreciate the contribution because you mentioned something that other people may be thinking. So it's good to have, you know, to bring it up